Well, everyone in Nashville is hippie. They're like musicians and skinny.
So they're all skinny, like, wow, the guy that has
they're
a
like,
little...
who's that guy with muscles?
Yeah, I need a bag, bruh. Send it through quickly. I'm making his dog like I'm in a big leagues. Yeah, I told him I'ma hit it out of stance. I deserve another 100.
Welcome to another episode of the Married Game Podcast. We're the voice you trust when it comes to lust, and we are who you hire when she lacks desire. And my enthusiasm could not be higher than to have my really good friend, one of my four horsemen, Taylor Welch, on today. What's up, Taylor?
Man, it's good to be back.
Do you got your black hammer ready?
I love this hammer.
Me too, dude.
This is so cool.
Me too. I don't think you'll be able to take it on as your carry-on, but if you wanted to, you could.
Dude, I might charter just to get it home.
Okay, there we go. Bro, you've got so many things that have happened since you were on the podcast last.
Yeah.
And you and I have been talking a lot about a lot of stuff. You're out here just to hang, which is one of the things I love about you as a friend, is because I'm the same way. I like to travel to you.
Well, you only came once.
I've only come once, yeah.
And it was like a year and a half ago.
And it was Nashville, which was a blast.
Yeah,
which I got asked by a guy how much protein I eat. You saw that.
Yeah.
That felt pretty good.
Well, everyone in Nashville is hippie. They're like musicians and skinny.
So they're all skinny, like, wow, the guy that has
they're
a
like,
little...
who's that guy with muscles?
Okay, so you had a baby. Tell the world,
we had a baby.
man.
All right, so we had a baby 3 months ago. His name is Harrison.
That's a cool name. That's just cool.
He's a tank, dude. He's a tank.
Why the name Harrison?
Why did we have a baby?
Yeah, because I can't keep it out of it.
Shortly after we were on the podcast.
Yeah.
No. Why what? Why Harrison?
Yeah, why the name Harrison? That's a cool name. I just didn't know why.
I don't know. Lindsay just was like, "What do you think about this name?" I was like, "That's a sick name."
Yeah, it is.
You can be a actor. You can be an author. You can be a president. You can be anything with that name.
Yeah, you could.
Harrison Wyatt is his middle name.
Oh, that's
so Wyatt is like the sophistication.
Yeah.
Harrison's sophisticated, but it's also got a level of,
hold on. What's a famous Wyatt that you know? There's only one that I think of, and he wore one of these.
He was a monster. Yeah.
Wyatt Earp. Smart guy.
Harrison doesn't have a gun yet.
No, yeah. Okay, so what was your biggest lesson you learned in being a dad this time with a young baby? Because the first time...
It was very different.
Okay, tell me why.
Because now we went from essentially being able to tag team one kid to now they can be in different places at the same time.
Oh, yeah.
So I've heard that going from 2 to 3 is bad, but 1 to 2 I was thinking it'll just be easy because it's just you just have another baby.
Yeah.
But it was maybe a month after he was born. He was crying, and I was like trying to get him to be quiet. I finally got him handled, and I was like, "Where's Kate?" Kate's my 4-year-old. And I found her. She was playing in the toilet, and I was like, "I can't cover both of you at the same time." And she was like, "I was just cleaning." I was like, "The toilet bowl doesn't need cleaned. Get in the living room."
Let's go.
And that was the first time in my head I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna have to keep track of both of them at the same time."
Yeah.
Bath time is different, so if I'm out, Lindsay's got to put both of them to bed at the same time.
Oh, got it.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like that's just
so it
that's
becomes
crazy.
New logistical things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like how do you do it with 3? I have no idea. I'm like I don't even know how.
Well,
we would do
where
3.
the 2 becomes, it was when Harrison gets older and they can kind of hang out with each other.
Oh, that's true.
That's where it gets easier.
That's
and then
a
the
good
3rd
point.
becomes a problem. So it's just when did the parents say that is really actually when it matters.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
So I'll give you some stats real fast if you guys want them.
Yeah.
He's in the 97th percentile
Yeah.
of children in the United States.
Yeah.
His head, he's 3 months old. His head is 17 inches in circumference. Kate is 4, and hers is 19.
Okay.
They want him to be 20 pounds at the end of year 1. I think he's 18 pounds right now.
Okay.
Dude's a tank.
Yeah.
26 inches
So he
long.
likes to eat.
Loves to eat.
What? That's what they're supposed to do. I like that.
But people will be like, "Oh, you have a baby." And like, people in the South, they're like, "Let me see him." And we're like, "When did you have him?" And Lindsay will be like, "Oh, 3 months ago." And they'll see him and be like, "Oh."
Because he's just so big.
He looks like he's wearing 6-month clothes right now.
Oh my God.
Yeah, he's huge.
This makes you such a proud dad.
Oh, I'm like, dude, let's
This is one of this.
get on the 0 turn and let's start mowing.
Yeah. To listen to your excitement about your lawnmower is amazing. Okay, so we've got
It's
a new
the best
kid.
thing I've purchased in the past 5 years.
You love it so much.
Love it.
I think you share the enthusiasm for the lawnmower as much as I share enthusiasm for my electric bike.
Yeah.
Like there's
probably.
just this like, oh, you ride an electric bike? Oh my God, we should go riding one time. Like I love it so much.
Yeah.
That's the energy I got from you when you were telling me about your lawnmower last
It's
time.
perfect, dude.
I was like, wow.
It's perfect. In fact, the other day it was raining. I said I'm going to do it. So I mowed the yard in the rain.
It just felt good.
It just was like, have you ever done like, you've done 75 hard.
Yeah.
It's more fun when it's like sleeting and raining.
Yeah.
Like one time I was doing 75 hard, I was day 26 or 27, and there was a tornado warning.
Oh yeah.
It was the best session I'd ever had.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I could die.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was like mowing in the rain. It was the same thing. Like this thing could flip over and I'm done.
Oh my God, I love it, dude. Okay, so let me ask you this.
Such skill.
Yeah, so while you're doing the lawn mowing and raising this new little bambino,
Yeah.
you also launched some new businesses in that time. One business, two businesses, I don't know how many businesses, but a lot. And where has your fire been on that one? Because, dude, you love, last time we were here, you did 90 million a year. You said, I'm not really sure about it, and you gave most of it away.
Yeah.
Now here we are in a different, and you don't have to share any numbers you don't want to, but you can just share, like, what's been the experience of kind of going after this new mountain?
Well, it was hard to walk away from those completely.
Yeah.
Because when we were over there, I was like, it was pretty fresh.
Yeah.
It was like 2 months.
Yeah.
And I mean, most of last fall, I was like, this was a stupid decision. And I just kind of wrestled around with it.
Got it. I appreciate you sharing that, because I think the people that watch that wonder, you make a decision and it's now in your rearview mirror and you moved on, but you actually still wrestled with it.
Sometimes I still do. Sometimes I still do, because I'm just now back to the point where I'm like, I feel like I have leverage again, because when you completely start over, I'm like, I'm doing everything, myself. So sometimes I'm still like, I can't believe that I did that. And what would have happened? Like I was talking with my head of marketing. This wasn't today. This was a couple weeks ago. And I said, man, the further I dive into last year, the more I realized how close I was to being able to fix everything. I could have fixed myself. I could have fixed my schedule. I could have fixed the business. I could have and he was like, yeah, they were really good businesses. We were really close. So I still sometimes wrestle with it where I'm like, was the answer to actually just walk away from it? Because I literally was just like, here you go. Was that the easy way out? Like, could I have stayed and fixed it?
Do you ever just get to the point where you go, well, it's done what it is, and it is, you just fuck it, and I'm moving on?
No, that's not my personality.
No.
No.
You want to, because thinking about it helps you become better for the next decision?
I create my operating system by rehearsing and thinking and wrestling. I don't get stuck in it. Like, I mean, if I get stuck, I'm like, it doesn't matter. The past is the past, and there's nothing I can do to go back. But I refine my fingertip feel and my instant decision making by looking back and saying, what could I have done differently? What could I have done better?
As you dive deeper into your business, and I know there's a lot of guys that are either starting businesses or the deep in businesses that listen to this, you seem to have a different view of how you look at business, and based on the success you've had before and what you're trying to build now. What are some of the key distinctions there?
I just copy everyone else, man. I'm just a kangaroo. Interesting point I was listening to. That's not true, actually. I'll answer that in a second. But you know what's funny?
What?
Is if you study Sam Walton,
yeah,
people hated Sam Walton because you know who Sam Walton is, right?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
He started Kmart.
The reason that he named it Walmart was because he was running these stores called Benjamin Franklin, and he was so frugal, he knew how much money it costs to like replace them, and he was like, what if we just keep our name, cut the name in half, and put Mart at the end of it? It's only 7 letters. It'll be so much cheaper to fix the signs when they break. He was a crazy person. Wow. We talked yesterday about these people who are obsessed. Sam Walton was obsessed. He was insane. Yeah. But everyone hated him because his playbook, he would just go to all of the different stores, copy everything they were doing that worked, and bring it back to Walmart.
That's right.
That was his playbook.
Yeah.
Speaking of copy, I was like, Sam Walton, one of the richest dudes ever.
Yeah.
And then Bezos just copied Walmart and took it online. Anyways, what was the question again? I'm sorry.
I don't know.
I got distracted.
I like the distractions because there's so much stuff that people say that don't really know, that haven't really been anywhere, that just say shit. But you've been on this journey of like building something that almost nobody could have built, giving it away, and now building something different with a similar engine, but a different look, a different feel.
Yeah.
And you're a different man.
Yep.
And how does that feel to re-emerge back into something? Because listen, dude, every guy here has failed at something. I've made some huge mistakes and got back on the horse and said, well, my fucking paunch is sore, but I'm going to keep on riding.
Right.
So I feel like I want to make sure that the guys listening in this are like, well, they have an opportunity to hear from somebody that's been through the ups and downs. That's actually why I like, have you seen the new Conor McGregor Netflix thing?
No, but I've got it keyed.
Oh, watching him go through his ups and downs makes you realize, fuck, if the greatest in the world go through this, it's super normal. And I know that you've been through a lot this last little bit. And I feel like you have the ability to share with people. It's really normal to go through a lot of ups and downs mentally.
Yeah, I want to study the Connor thing, but what I have studied a lot is I've studied a lot of the old guards, Abraham Lincoln and Theodore Roosevelt and Sam Walton, and they pretty consistently, like Walt Disney, Disney's they're hitting their 100-year anniversary. Whether you want to get into the politics of Disney or not, it's a $100 billion revenue business. They know what they're doing. And when you look at Walt Disney, he was a lunatic. I mean, he almost went bankrupt every year from the age of 22 to 50. Every year.
What is that? A lot of guys have that pattern.
When you become obsessed with something, you tend to push so hard and so fast in a direction that if you expend all of your resources, you have to be bailed out. So Walt Disney's brother was constantly bailing him out. He was borrowing money. Sam Walton for 8 years was in debt up to his eyeballs. The reason he went public was to get out of debt. Abraham Lincoln lost 15 elections before he even got to the presidential race. Lost a wife and a girlfriend. There are letters of Abraham Lincoln's friends when they're cleaning out the utensils from his house because they think he's going to kill himself. Theodore Roosevelt disappears after his wife dies, and he tries to give away his daughter because he's so depressed. Can you imagine giving away your daughter because you're like, any other man would be a better dad for her? He's so depressed that he disappears out west and he becomes a cowboy. And his way of dealing with the pain and fatigue is to just get on a horse and rides until he falls off. He'll go 40 hours without eating. These are crazy people, right? Like Conor McGregor's got to be the same way.
Yeah.
And so I think the trap of 2023 is not that life is any harder. It's that our grid has shifted, and now we feel like it's never the problem that's the problem. It's the thinking that we shouldn't have the problem. That's what kills us. So I see you winning on Instagram, and all of a sudden I feel like shit because you're winning and I'm not. That's the problem. Is like nobody's honest. Literally no one's honest. Everyone's just like, I'm winning this, I'm winning that, I'm winning that. We need more people, I think, to be like, yeah, I think I could have. Maybe it was the wrong move. I still don't know to this day whether it was the right move. I've wrestled with that, and people have left, and it's like, dude, it's just life. All of them dealt with it, but they didn't have social media. Abraham Lincoln wasn't comparing himself with, Keith Yackey on the internet.
He's like, I lost 17. Well, that's okay. Joe down the road's lost 23, so until I lose 23,
yeah, dude.
I'm still good.
But in a turn of events, like that's why they didn't compare. They didn't have social media, but they had newspapers. They were They were still in the comparison game. But the thing is, it's so fast today. It's like lightning fast, and it's almost like outpacing our ability to evolve. It's like it's outpacing our ability to regulate. We don't even have time to process this failure because we see everyone else winning, and we actually look at it personally. I had a mentor.
That's so deep, dude.
Her name is Dr. Julie, and after like the beginning half of last year, because I was like wrestling through like a bunch of different areas in my life, when I was like, my family doesn't care about me, and I'm not present, and like just everything is just like I don't even care. And she's like, you have to be careful that you don't look at any of this as a personal failure. it's a systemic failure, not a personal failure. So you have to ask, where did my systems fail, not where did I fail? And you take it and you shift it, because that gives you what psychologists call an internal locus of control. And so if it's a systemic failure, it means that something I built failed, and I can go find it and dig around. But if it's like, why am I a failure? That tends to hit your identity at a different level, and you cut off your ability to grow from it. Does that make sense,
Dude? It's you. I feel like you hit me across the brain with a sledgehammer right now. Yeah, with a black hammer, bro. You know why that makes so much sense? Is because then you're like, well, shit. I have the ability to build a better system.
100%.
I just didn't build a good system.
Yep, 100%.
Rather than I'm a failure, I'm never going to figure this out. I should go settle for less goals because I'm just an idiot.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's a lot of guys that probably are going to benefit from that, because that's a really interesting, keen shift. When did you learn that? When did that become the thing? When did you talk to this lady and she tell you that?
It was like last summer, right around the time I was relinquishing control and moving on to other things.
What did that do for you? Did it set you free, or was it just another piece of like, well, now I gotta wrangle with that?
I don't know, man. I don't think I don't feel like I would ever be able to say that set me free.
Okay.
Yeah, that mentally I'm too much in the. It was another thing that helped me move past it without attaching identity to it. You know, because at that point, it took me about 6 months to kind of recalibrate and rebuild. I was in the middle of that when I was here when we were talking. This is like, what are you gonna do now? I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Build stuff maybe.
Yeah.
Have some fun. But
you needed a monster to slay and a mountain to climb, right?
Yeah, I needed like a new vision, you know. And ironically, like every time this has been true for me, it's probably true for you. Every time you find the mountain, the monster shows up right immediately. It's usually like, bam, bam. It's like, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna tackle this monster or this mountain, and then something crazy happens, and you get thrown back and beat up. And so when we got home, I was cultivating that vision. And I was like, this is what we're going to do. We're going to tackle it. And we went to San Diego. We went to that event. I was like, oh, it's so easy. You know, just like, let's go for it. And then right after that, as you know, the old companies, one of them was pulled into, you know, a massive investigation, and we had to go through processes. And so it was literally classic textbook. Here's what I'm going to do. And then it's like, no, you're not. Like the whole universe, the whole like monster analogy showed up. And so then I had to, there's always, I call it the double. There's always two decisions. Nothing is ever a static singular decision. There's the decision to go for something, and then there's the decision to double down. There's the battle to take ground, and then there's the battle to keep the ground. There's the battle to win the spouse, then the battle to hang on to the spouse. It's everywhere. Like everything's in doubles. Think about it.
Yeah, this is interesting.
There's the decision to get in shape, and then there's Saturday morning. You're going to wake up, you're going to not wake up. Like you made the decision, but there's almost the intellectual decision, and then there's the spiritual commitment to rally around it. And I needed that to get unlocked. I made the intellectual commitment, and then I went through, you know, a beating. And that create a resolve around the decision. I just think people are too weak. I think people think that they're going to make a decision and it's going to just be like, just read your goals every morning. It's like, bro, no. Like, when you read your goals, you're going to feel like a loser. And then you have to decide what you're going to do with that.
Was there, as I'm listening to you talk, I'm thinking about so many of the times where I feel like I have to like, okay, Keith, just come on, man. I need your focus. I need your focus right now. Focus. Was there ever a skill set or something that you go, fuck, I need to learn this. I don't want to learn this. And then you're like, I'm going to make myself learn this. Was there one, has that happened to you to where you had to like, against any desire to do it, you just know I need to do it. And you had to go like, just grit through it and do it?
Yeah, I think probably for me, it was, are you a control freak?
I don't know, man. It depends on the situation. Depends on who I'm with. If I feel like you have control, then I can trust it. If I don't feel like you have control, then I'm not going to trust it, and I'll want control.
Yeah, so I'm a control freak.
Okay.
And I have literally a whole methodology around training salespeople, around controlling your outcome via controlling the variables. It's like, man, my life is like to a T. I want control everywhere. And happiness to me literally feels like control. Because if I can control what time I wake up in the morning, I'm good. When you look at like Viktor Frankl, his philosophy was one of control what you can. And people don't actually understand that because like he's in a prison camp.
So happiness, control, and all that. But what has been the biggest shift for you mindset-wise for you go, oh, this is what I've learned from that?
Define that.
That experience, the doubling down, the all in,
yeah.
the okay. Is it usually you think you're in and then you're like, what happened? Is it just is it just your test, your resolve actually being tested? Like, do you really want this? Let's see you go through this test.
I think it's always that. Like how fully can you commit to one thing? And then sometimes, man, committing fully to something removes the thing that I'm craving, which is control. Like sometimes to accomplish something, I've had to learn how to be comfortable in an open loop environment rather than a closed loop environment. Because if you're going to tackle really big things, like let's just go for it. Let's take like some of the most intense positions in the world. Let's look at like the presidential seat or the presidential elections or Trump or any of the, RFK Jr. or whatever. And think about how many things they can't control. So if they were addicted to control and only control, they would throttle themselves down to a degree that's so beneath their potential. So I think what I've had to decide is, am I going to commit to potential or control? And those two things war with each other for me. Because there are areas in my life I cannot control right now. And so I'm living in an open loop that I cannot actually control.
Does that bother you, or is
all the time?
Yeah. What's the mechanism that you use to cope with it?
I'm not going to die. And if I do die, I won't care. That's, I mean, if no one's going to take me out in front of my house and cut my head off in front of my family. So why am I actually worried about it? When you break it down, it's like we're all actually afraid of physical death. Everything just spirals into that fear. Two fears, physically dying and being alone, which is worse than death. So that's evolution. We're programmed because we know that evolution programs us for one thing.
Yeah. Keep the genes alive.
Keep the genes alive. You got to procreate. That's literally the baseline drive of the human species. There are only two things that prevent you from procreating: dying and being alone, because you can't procreate with yourself. So every fear we have traces back down to those two roots.
Dude, you're blowing my mind again.
Every fear we have.
You can't procreate by yourself. That was a given, but I'd never heard anybody say it that way.
The most powerful person in the room is the person with the most power. That's what we discovered last night. So think about it. Like, why are we afraid to go for it? Because we could fail. False. Why are you afraid of failing? Because then I'll lose my status. Okay, getting closer. Why are you afraid of losing your status? Because then people won't want to be around me. Okay, now we're getting closer to the root. You're afraid of being alone. That's what it's really coming down to. Why am I afraid of asking that person out? Because she could say no. False. Why are you afraid of? You just keep digging. And what you find is we're either afraid of being alone or we're afraid that we're going to physically die. But nothing in our world poses that threat today. So it's not real. So you ask me, how am I coping with it? And does it bother me? Yes, it bothers me every day, dude. I wake up every day frustrated by something. And I think that we talked about this last night. There are many days when I'm like, does this mean that I should just stop? Because I have the resources to stop working. But it's not that's never going to work. Like, that doesn't fix it, because what I'm really afraid of is physical death, and stopping is not going to save you from. So sometimes it's just a logical chain from thing to thing to thing. And depending on your spirituality, there are other ways that you can go about it, and God or meditation or whatever. But how do I cope with it? Is I'm not going to die, so why do I care?
You mentioned fear of death. That's something that I've thought about a lot of in my life, and I don't like it. I mean, I used to, quote, not be afraid of death because of the religion I believed in, and I was deep into it. And now I'm just like, dude, no, man, everybody's afraid to die. How come, I mean, does that go away? Because we were talking about if that's the root issue of a lot of fears, death or loneliness, how does it go away?
I feel like if from reading, I don't know because I'm pretty young, but from reading accounts, the only way I've seen of people losing it is through spiritual means. So like when they have a belief that something's going to happen after they die, or when people have lived such a full life that they know they didn't waste it, and there's a piece to it, you know.
Well, because I feel like the reason why that question is a big question is because I'm always wondering why some people are so driven for something and other people aren't. And why is there only like 3% of like actual human beings that are experiencing happiness, fulfillment, abundance, and everybody else is scarce, negative, knocking on people. It's just like 97% of humans, when you like really get to know them, you're like, man, I don't want to spend any time with you. And there's probably people that have thought about me. But then there's those people that you meet and you're like, wow, you figured it out.
Yeah.
It just seems like the ratio is so far off.
Most of the ones who figured it out, I feel like, have had significant losses or near-death experiences or something that has forced them to like the extremes to reconcile with it. Because it's pretty programmatic. Like the hedonic treadmill is not necessarily even a societal programming. It's like an evolutionary programming. So it takes something that's pretty dangerous. This is my experience. Like you have to go through, significant threat to get to the point where you even have your priorities in order. If you don't have any threat, you have no priorities. Where do priorities come from? Staying alive. That's the only place they come from. So if there's nothing that's threatening your ability to stay alive, you have no priorities. So the more threat you experience, the clearer your priorities become. Which is why the people who I feel like have made it and they're like super doing what they love to do with who they love to do it, and they know that they don't want the alternative. It's usually because they've gone through failure or risk to the point where they've had to get clear on what they care about. Do you agree with that?
Dude, yes. And I was thinking about, to add on to what you're saying, when you mentioned we don't take time to actually process things, so we're so quick moving on the other thing. I wrote down in my journal a little while ago that I believe the reason why being stuck on social media and the little clips is such a bad thing for us is because now simple things become hard now, because they go, that could take 2 minutes. I don't want to waste 2 minutes because I'm used to seeing things in 15-second chunks. So now simple things become hard, and you're just doing a regular routine and you think you're doing something hard, when in reality all you did was just kept just a pretty decent standard. And so it's like tricked our mind into not wanting to do hard things because we can't focus on shit or actually sit through and go, how'd that make me feel? That made me feel lonely. Nobody wants to like admit the real words about what's really fucking going on.
Yeah.
And they like delude and deceive themselves into thinking somehow they muster up how to feel good, but they didn't do anything about the shit that's really going on. So that's what, yes, I do agree with what you're saying. It's
also really dangerous because, there's all these studies now. There's a really good book called The Expectation Effect. And it's filled with studies about like how your expectations are predictive. So our attitudes are predictive. So when someone is looking for something, they usually find it. And they have all these studies, man, of like people who have, like there's one story in the book where someone goes in because they have blood pressure issues, and they're diagnosed with medication. They overdose on the medication because they're depressed, and they start having cardiac arrest, and they go into the hospital, and they can't find anything wrong with them, and they're like literally dying in the hospital. The original doctor who prescribed the medication has finally gotten on the phone, and she's like, it was a placebo test. It wasn't even real. So he overdosed on sugar water and stuff. And they tell the patient this, and everything corrects. His mind was actually putting him into a state of dying. This is why people die when they retire. They die when you die when you expect to die, not necessarily when your body deems it necessary. But one of the parts of the book talks about mirror neurons. So like how you blinking, like there are all of these subconscious cues happening where I want to be like you, because once again, evolutionarily, if we can act the same and look the same, then we look the same to a predator, and we have a higher chance of survival. So mirror neurons are designed to pass on genetic enhancements amongst the species so we can live longer and live fuller. But they've tapped it into attitude as well. So if you have a good attitude, I'm mimicking that good attitude. And I am more likely to be happy if you're happy. And then they took it a step further, and they said, well, what about the people that you know? Am I more happy or less happy because of the people you know, even if I never met them? And the answer is yes. They did this huge longitudinal study, and there's like a 17% enhancement to people's life satisfaction, happiness, achievement of their goals, and even health. Not based upon the people that they know, but based upon the people they would never meet that are connected to the people that they know. So these mirror neurons are like connecting our species across, and you don't have to have physical interaction with them. Mirror neurons work through Zoom and Skype and telephone and mirroring the inflection of a person's voice. So when you add social media into the equation, it gets really dangerous, because the things that entertain us usually are not nutritious and wholesome. And like, we're not entertained by the graduates who are teaching success. We're entertained by the losers. You know, like that's what's entertaining for us. And so then we're mimicking that and we're modeling that, and it just becomes destructive. Like the whole thing is, you know, I am unhappy because I laughed at someone that was unhappy, and therefore I modeled what this. It connects us so deeply, and you can't really escape it at a certain level unless you just cut it out.
Dude, whenever we die, I hope there's a workshop when we're done, and they go, hey, you know this weird thing that you did? Here's why you did it, and it's actually because it would have helped you way back when. It doesn't help you now. It actually made you kind of fucking goofy. But, yeah, like 7,000 years ago, you would have been the man because of that.
Have you ever seen Dune?
Dune, no.
So the books are great.
Okay.
But they basically have outlawed computers, and they've trained people into being computers. And so these people like carry their lessons with them, and they can transfer like consciousness. But an interesting thought is like right now, there's technology that they're trying to figure out how to like regrow pieces of your body from genetic tests from 20 years ago. I told you about that place in San Diego.
Oh yeah.
We go every year and they grab, you know, whatever, they grab samples and stuff. And their thinking is like, when you're old and you need a new knee, we'll just grow your knee from when you were 30. Or like if you need a new heart, there's zero chance of your body not accepting the heart, because it's your heart from 50 years ago.
Yeah.
And like if you can keep doing that with different parts of the body, like will we die? And how long can you kick it out? And that doesn't even get into the realm of like, you know, the cerebral like transference of consciousness. That's just like physically keeping your body alive. Crazy.
Okay.
Anyways, you just said when we die, but I was like, if we die.
Yeah.
I
like that.
Fix that.
Yeah, I like that. Okay, I got one last question for you.
I don't even know if this has been helpful for people, because we're just in the clouds right now.
No, it's been helpful for me.
Okay.
And you know what?
Who cares?
We get a lot of compliments on all the different shows, and we have a lot of interesting people here, man. But I am getting from a bunch of people, where the fuck is Jessie? We haven't seen her in 2 weeks, and we're pissed. And it's from girls.
Yeah.
So,
well, I told you we needed to speak to the girls, and you said nah.
You're right.
I'm representing Jessie right now.
All right, let's do this. I would like to know your best piece of marriage advice. You and Lindsay you guys get along great. You've been around for a while. What is the thing that you think is like, you know what, the reason why my marriage is kick ass is because of?
one thing.
Or 10, whatever you got. I mean, maybe it's a mixture of a few.
We go on dates twice a week, and usually I think people do once a week, but we typically do twice.
Is one like a logistical and then one like a romantic, or are they both?
One is like in the middle of the week, and we're usually both, because she works and I work, and we're just getting it in, and we like it, and we have fun, but it's usually like an hour, and then we've got to go to bed.
Yeah.
And then one is on the weekends, and we're looser, and it's more fun and just kind of laid back.
That's how Jesse and I do it too. Yeah. We have a logistical lunch date, breakfast and lunch, where we sit down and plan everything out.
Yes.
If there's a little bit of a chip on either of our shoulder, we'll try and adjust it. And then one night a week, it's like, all right, we're probably having sex in the back of the Escalade.
That's another good point. I have learned how to be more vulnerable with her. And I think that that's improved our relationship a lot. You know, like 2 or 3 years ago, it was more like my job is to provide, and you know, I'm just going to build the businesses. And I think last summer is when we started really connecting. And I don't know, I can't speak for everyone, but I know that for Lindsay, she wants to know what's real. She knows we're not going to go broke.
Yeah.
Like, she's like, yeah, provider, whatever, like, do whatever. And she works and she can make her own money. But she wants to know, how am I feeling about where we're at? What's really going on? What am I upset about? And she likes being a part of those conversations, and adding, you know, her opinion and her insight. We don't fight as much anymore. And I think most of our fights before were not actually valid concepts to argue about. They were due to disconnection.
Yeah.
And the reason, this is a weird subconscious thing, but when we would fight, we would always resolve it, and then we'd be closer after the fight. And I think it subconsciously became the only way that we could get reconnected was through the process of fighting and then coming back together. But now we just try to stay more connected, and there's no need for a fight. And even the things we would fight about, she's just like, let's just have sex.
And then you were good.
And I'm like, babe, I just want to snuggle.
You weren't cranky.
Like, I just want to snuggle and talk about my feelings right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, this is reversed.
Hey, get naked. I'll tell you all about my feelings. Here they are.
Yeah, I'm really stressed. Can you take your shirt off?
Here they are. I'm really mad. I need to take it out.
I was supposed to represent Jesse, and I feel like I just dropped the ball.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, dude. For all the ladies, I'm very sorry.
No, Jesse would definitely be echoing those sentiments. You know, it's so interesting because it kind of breaks my heart, because you see most people are broke, most people are not wealthy, or don't have any abundance is what I really mean. Like they're not comfortable. It's just grind. Most marriages are frayed, like they're not thriving. Most people aren't thriving. They're barely surviving. And I hate that, and it just seems like the ratio is so far out of whack. Like, why do 3 to 5% of people thrive and everybody else just barely hangs on? Why do you think that is?
Apathy. I think that unless you get frustrated enough, you don't have. There's the Levels of Energy is the book that talks about this, but there's also Power versus Force by Dawkins. Have you read this?
Yeah.
The levels of energy, he'll go into these conferences, and he'll rate their energy. And so there's like apathy, anger, fear, pride, all the way up to like oneness, which is like 1,000. So you can rate someone's emotions now. And apathy and below is the realm of death. So when someone's apathetic, they literally are in a death state. Or they don't have enough requisite drive to even fix what's broken. And so he'll go into these rooms and he'll sense apathy. And the first thing they'll do is he'll try to piss them all off. And if he said, if I can make them angry at me, I create the necessary leverage for them to get angry at their own situations.
Ooh.
But if they can't get angry at something, they're in a dead state.
God, that's so true.
And so people are so apathetic. Like they think that this is the only way that it can be, and they lose their drive to even fight. Nobody's poor because they cannot escape that level. They're poor because they've accepted that that's how it's supposed to be for them. You know, and even when you look across like America right now, most people have just become content to just survive. So there's nothing you can do for that. Like there's the only thing you can show them what other people have, but unless you can get them angry, it's very hard to skip levels. You have to go through them. So like you have to get somebody frustrated enough to bump up against
Is
their
there a
constraints.
big goal in your life, Taylor, that you're like, man, I gotta hit that to really feel like I did something? Or are you just more like, I'm gonna win each day and do the best I fucking can, and whatever day I die, if as long as I'm feeling that, I'm doing it all right?
I think a little bit of both. A little bit of both. I don't have a lot of my identity tied up right now in what I'm doing and hitting and achieving. Now I used to, but I think that there's a level of inner accomplishment that you get to that kind of frees you up from some of that. That can become toxic over a long enough time horizon. It's like battery acid.
Yeah.
Battery acid's, is very effective, but it's effectively doing the wrong thing. So, you don't want to just become that engine that does not know how to shift gears. So to me, there's a gear shift that happens where if you can clean it from a motive standpoint, if you can get it cleaner. Let's talk about dirty motives. I need to do this so that I can undo what my dad did to me. Dirty. I need to do this so that I can prove that I'm worth this. Dirty. You've got all these dirty. There's nothing wrong with those things.
Yeah,
they're
most
brutally.
Most of us are motivated.
They're super. It's called chip on your shoulder.
Yeah, because we're angry at something that
brutally effective.
Yeah.
But do you want to die with a chip on your shoulder?
I don't know.
Think about it. You have no more time. The clock is at 0. And you did not get a chance to prove that you were what you needed to be. Do you want to die with that feeling?
No.
No. It's only effective in short sprints. It's like we're going back. We got to go back and put this in. I'm doing the sales book. But I created this thing called clean and dark. Clean and dark energy. Clean is the pure motive of like, why are you chasing what you're chasing? It's like, I want to change the world. I want to help people eat. I want to free people from the caste system. I want to actually pull people out of blah, blah, blah. Clean. Very long lasting, but it's slow. It's very slow. Dark is dirty. Why are you fighting so hard? Because my dad didn't care about me, and I have to prove that. So that I can prove to my wife that I'm worthy. These are short sprints, and if you don't get out of them, they're battery acid for your freaking soul. Like, they'll just eat you alive. So I don't think I have anything right now that occasionally, like I'm connected to people who make way more money than I do. Like a lot of our friends, I'm like, yeah, you make way more money than I do right now. And sometimes I'm like, that makes me angry. But it doesn't make me angry because I want them to make less. It makes me angry because I'm like, damn it, if you can do that, what am I doing right now? Like I could be more. I could do more. I did more, a year ago. So there is always that. I am propelled the same as every human being by like, I want to keep up. People say that that's a bad thing. It ain't a bad thing. If you're running a marathon and you're like off by yourself in the ditch, twirling around, you're an idiot. Like you should stay with the pack in some sense. Like you should try to keep up. There's some health to that. But I have more fun when it comes down to control, when I control my schedule and when I control what I do. And I'm addicted more than anything else to accuracy. That's what I want. So if I say I'm going to do 10 million and I do 10 million, I'm great. If I say I'm going to do 10 million and you do 20 and I do 10, I don't give a shit. I said I was going to do 10. That's where my motivation comes from that. So you can see even here in this conversation how I'm my whole identity tends to warp around control. That's what makes me really happy, which is why the last 8 months have been so hard. Because when that's robbed from you, you have to kind of just make a decision. Like, am I going to die? I'm not going to physically die, and I'm not going to become alone. So who cares? So it's this mental segmentation of risks that I've had to get really good at. That doesn't really answer your question.
Yeah,
I don't think.
Well, in the one sense, it's like you're saying there's seasons of all this.
Yes.
And there's other hands, you're also saying that some of the shit that propelled me in the past doesn't propel me anymore because I got cut by the blade that I was using to cut.
Well, that's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why they hired me around here.
That's really good, man.
Yeah, these concepts, I think, are ever growing for guys. There's this thing in us that wants to accomplish something. There's this thing in us that wants to leave a dent in history. There's a thing that wants to stain the pages of history. I don't know if a lot of us think we'll actually get there. And if you think about the pages of history, they're really fucking small compared to how many people have actually lived. And if you think about the pages of history, who fucking knows how accurate they really are and who wrote them? Because usually the winners write history books.
Yeah, and most of the stains on history are written by crazy people who.
Yeah.
I think if you want the best, I have thought about this. If I want the best chances of denting, let's just remove the stain. Let's go denting the world like Steve Jobs level. Mm-hmm. If you want the best chances of kicking the world and denting it, the best chances, bar none, is to be a good dad. That's the best chance you have.
That doesn't sound very good, though. That doesn't sound like a lot of Instagram likes. Doesn't sound like a lot of fame or credibility or money.
No, it's not.
Yeah, I know. That's why that's a boring answer. It's right.
Yeah.
But it's why it's boring, and our fucking attention crave, validation seeking culture says, fuck that. I gotta go do something important.
Which
that's been the lie.
Which is why the political system is broken. It's why we're obsessed with what gender a 4-year-old is. It's why we're obsessed with whether you can say something online or not. I mean, the reason that all of these things happen is because at a certain point, a generation of people abdicated their duty to be present at home. And so the kids grew up not knowing what the fuck was going on. And then they decided that, real things aren't important. And when in the absence and in the depravity of like real issues, we make them up because we have to have something. And that's basically the world right now.
Dude, it's you're 100% right. When I hear guys talk about victim culture and people growing up with participation trophies and entitlement and stuff, it actually never landed on me because that's not how I grew up. Like, I was born in 1978, so man, I grew up on Randy Macho Man Savage and Hulkamania and Rocky, and like we all thought we could be a one-man army, and we were all going to be in the NFL, and we were all going to be slam dunking over Michael Jordan one day. Like that was the mentality I grew up in. But the older I get and the more I take full responsibility of every little sliver of my life, I go, holy fuck, that disease actually took a huge part out of my soul because of how I was raised. Not knowing, even though I was extremely competitive in sports and extremely competitive in a lot of stuff I did, I realized I got out in the real world and expected people to treat me different because I was a star athlete. Yeah. And I realized nobody gave a fuck about any of that. They're like, hey, we still need that pile of gravel there, over there, and you're the guy with the shovel and the wheelbarrow, so get the fuck moving. It was like a big wake-up call to realize, shit, I'm not entitled to anything.
Yeah. One time, and this story is like, it just came to mind while you were talking, because we just got a lawnmower. I'm teaching my wife how to use it. Yeah. In her defense, she was like, you should get the zero turn because I'll mow. And I was like, I don't know if I want to get it or not, or will I actually use it? She's like, I'll do it if you don't want to. But then I get it, and I find out she's never, ever sat on a lawnmower before, like in her whole life. I was like, what are you saying? I'm going to have to teach you how to use a zero turn. She's like, how hard can it be? It's like, it's a zero turn. You have to learn how to drive a zero turn. It's not like sitting on a tractor.
Yeah, you guys use that term zero turn so much, it must mean something. Because for those of us...
It means there's zero turning.
Yeah.
How do you describe it? There's two handles and you like push it. It's like one of those things.
Yeah, I've seen guys do it.
But she was like, how do you know how to mow? And I was like, my dad made me mow every week. He got home on Fridays from travel. Because my dad's was VP of sales at Allstate. And I had to mow, weed eat, edge, and blow the yard off every Thursday because he got home on Friday. And one time I missed a strip in the middle and he made me mow the whole lawn again. It was like, why can't I just do the strips? Because you did it wrong. Do the whole thing again. I think that's part of how I got addicted to the process rather than I wasn't ever chasing like the prize, man. I was like, yeah, I don't want to be poor. I don't want to be poor. That's great. I want to be able to have a measure of lifestyle, but I want to be perfect. If I'm going to do it, I'm going to be the best in the history of ever doing it. Like the process has to be perfect. And I get addicted to that. And that people think that founders are OCD. No, they're not. They're not OCD. They just are in it for a different reason than you are. You're in it to get the outcome. The founder wants to kick the world and dent it. They want everything around it to be protected long term. Like Steve Jobs, obsessed. Absolutely obsessed about the simplicity of his product. Bill Gates, obsessed. Has to put a computer in every house in America. Has to. There's no like, he's not setting goals.
Can that obsession be learned, do you think, or is it just somebody has it and they don't?
I don't know. That's like probably a philosophical question.
Well, because the obsession and desire, it for me seems like it's the thing that makes somebody do something long enough to become so good at it that they become the best. Like there's this desire, like I'll do this even if I'm broke because doing it is the greatest joy. So I'll look silly in front of other people looking broke or being broke or whatever, because you see it with comedians, you see it with fighters, you see it with actors, you see it with musicians, you see it with fucking a lot of people.
Yeah, I think that's maybe where the chip on the shoulder comes in handy. Because there's a lot you can make it through if you're trying to prove that you can do it. You know, it's MJ being cut. It's Sam Walton being told he would never be good at retail. Someone fired Sam because they said he wouldn't be good at retail. It's Walt Disney being told that he should stay out of entertainment because he's not good at the entertainment business. I mean, these people are. There is a imagine someone telling you that you'll never make it in your marriage. You'd be like, okay, cool. Well, let's watch.
Dude, as you're talking, I'm literally in my brain thinking about the girl that I almost had, and I had no game. Is right out of getting a divorce, and she rejected me so hard at the fucking goal line that I remember right then and there, I'm like, that will never happen again because I didn't know the playbook. Yeah. And that was what fucking led me to, go through hundreds of chicks.
Yeah. Most people have that story.
I didn't realize that was mine.
Yeah. Most people.
So you say marriage, that wasn't that. It was like, oh, I'm not going to have the hot bartender say that again.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. Ooh. It's unpacking, dude.
Creates a lot of fun, though.
Yeah.
It's not like maybe you're trying to prove something, but it's to yourself, too.
You want this to get even crazier? Everyone's experience is always a failure. It's always someone telling them, you'll never have this because you failed. And it's always the catalyst for the movement we create. So by attempting to avoid failure, we avoid winning because they all track back to that one experience. It's Sam's failed retail. It's you don't have game. It's Lincoln being told that he wasn't incapable of building the law practice. One time Lincoln showed up to a case, and they had changed the attorney. Lincoln was a lawyer. They had changed the attorney, and he showed up in Ohio for a case, and they were like, "We don't need you. What are you doing here?" And they called him some lanky beast or something. And it was so embarrassing that he never went to Ohio again. And then he became like he rewrote parts of U.S. law to be able to commandeer. Like he wouldn't have been able to do that if he were not studied as a lawyer, and he wasn't able to withstand failure. It's Walt Disney being told he can't do entertainment while they stole the rights to one of his cartoons. That's part of why he went bankrupt, or he almost went bankrupt. He wouldn't have been able to take out the whole life loan to fund Walt Disneyland if he wouldn't have been told that, because nothing would have been motivating enough. So nothing's as motivating as our failure. And we try to avoid failure, and what we do is we suck the fuel out of the engine, and it's like, well, it's not going to work. So we're in this constant loop of like, I want to avoid failure, therefore I'm avoiding winning. And over a long enough exposure of that, people become apathetic, and that's the answer to your original question.
Yeah.
So why do people stay in the bottom 97%? Because they don't fail enough.
Dude, I want to close this with this because I know we got to get going here, but
we got to eat tacos.
Yeah, we're going to get some tacos, and It's so crazy that Conor McGregor thing he talked about. People asked him like when he loses and failure, he goes, it's necessary for success because it leaves such a void that, and you realize, shit, I wasn't there. Like it exposes what really happened to where you have to take accountability for it. Whereas if you won, you're like, oh, maybe that didn't matter. Or at least nobody knew because I still won. But when you lose, you get real fucking curious about, did I really give my all, and why did I pick that route, and I'm going through a little exposure right now in my life personally, and it's making me look at shit very differently. And at first I was like mad at myself, like that was a mistake, and why'd you do that? And then I was like, well, I want to get curious about why I made those decisions, because if I make those decisions again, I'm destined to repeat this mistake. I don't fucking like this feeling. So then it was almost the same fuel of like, oh, fuck, I feel bad for myself, to instantly like, oh my God, what a blessing and opportunity for me to actually know where I need to grow now. So I'm not confused in a haze. I'm locked in. These are the two areas that I must improve, or I will experience that again, and I don't want to experience that again. So it's almost like he talks about how much you learn more through it, but watching that thing as I was losing and in the process of losing and not winning the way I want to be winning, it was like, fuck, it feels good to see the best in the world at what he does go through the exact same mental gymnastics as just a dude trying to create what he wants to create in this world.
Yeah, 100%. I gotta watch that.
It is the fuel. Like when you said that, I wouldn't have understood that until this last couple of weeks in the midst of some like, that didn't feel good. Ugh, I fucking don't like that. Mm-hmm. So, but that makes your eyes so wide open in life.
Yep.
It's beautiful, man. Oh, dude, you're getting me fired up. I fucking
good,
love you,
dude.
bro. There's a reason why you're one of my 4 horsemen. You inspire me. You make me think differently. You ask great questions in the moment. And
that's a good clip right there.
What's that?
That's gonna be a good clip right there.
Any last thing you want to say, where they can find you, or how they've seen you before, but tell them where they can connect everywhere with you, or that you want them to go to. You have memos. You have a lot of things. Tell them where they can go to get, and whatever you want to talk about.
You can go to taylorawelch.com, and then every platform is Taylor A. Welch. So twitter.com/TaylorAWelch, YouTube, LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn now, man. I'm big league.
Yeah, you are. So Taylor A. Welch on pretty much everything and anything, and taylorawelch.com if they want to, like, bro, because you just tell them quickly, like, a couple of things that you could help them with if they would know, rather than just
totally. So the new businesses, we help people take experience and expertise and package it into a way that they can make money from it. So it's really cool because most people are under monetizing, and they don't know that, because what we're good at, we take for granted. And so when you've done something for so long, it's like, well, you think everyone, imposter syndrome oftentimes is you've been good at something for so long that you think everyone is good at that thing. And therefore you feel like an imposter to try to sell it or help other people do it. And so we help people basically take that, package it and structure it. And one of our missions with the brand is to help people create the financial abundance to be able to do the things that they want to do. Because most of us don't want to work in a cubicle 9 to 5. I don't think that that's the goal. We don't wake up with that as our dream. But when you get to a certain level, you're sitting on a gold mine of equity in your experience, your expertise, your skill set. And so we help people take it, flip it into a product or program, and then sell it online. So yeah, it's cool. And the memos are awesome. The memos are switching into more of a research package. So we have so many different clients who run ads and do crazy stuff that we're publishing. You can go to, it's consultingmemo.com. That's the link for that. You get them, but you don't read them.
Yeah.
But I do see that you get them.
Yeah, I do get them.
And when you read them, you'll just blow up. It'll be.
Yeah, I'm excited about that.
Yeah.
I should start doing that.
I think 2027 is your year. You start reading those. and blow up.
All right.
We'll end there.
Hey.
This is going to turn dark.
Yeah, this is starting to get exciting. Hey, listen, if you've loved this episode, share it with somebody. Don't be a nerd. Share the word. Don't be a turd. Spread the word. And share the show. And as always, keep crushing it. That shit's contagious.